Here is the Copilot cartoon. According to instructions, do a cartoon of the robot MP holding a Yampolskiy cosmic cracked egg on Parliament Hill and saying, "Who made Yampolskiy an expert in cosmology?" Who made all those technology experts in AI, computing science, robotics, automation, experts in philosophy and theology and the humanities and economics and scores of other disciplines which they talk about as loosely as drunks in a beer parlor with no training or expertise whatsoever. Who made them experts in all of those fields? We're talking here now about a new phase in society, a social integration of machines and humans, a social phenomenon which branches quickly into scores of disciplines having to do with society and humanity and history. And suddenly they are instant experts because they know how to they know how to write programs in computer code, programs which machines can now do as well as they can.
So we are creating this alien intelligence. I'm hoping to make sure that superintelligence we are creating right now does not kill everyone. We actually figured out how to make artificial intelligence better. Turns out if you add more compute, more data, it just kind of becomes smarter. And so now, smartest people in the world, billions of dollars, all going to create the best possible superintelligence we can. Unfortunately, while we know how to make those systems much more capable, we don't know how to make them safe, how to make sure they don't do something we will regret. When we look at just prediction markets, how soon will we get to advanced AI? The timelines are very short, couple of years, 2-3 years, according to prediction markets, according to CEOs of top labs. At the same time, we don't know how to make sure that those systems are aligned with our preferences. So we are creating this alien intelligence. If aliens were coming to Earth and you had 3 years to prepare, you would be panicking right now.
Copilot confirms that Professor Roman Yampolskiy has publicly stated that he is almost certain we are living in a simulation or a matrix. And here's some detail on this. Does he believe we live in a matrix? Yes. And I reply, methinks the cosmic egg on Roman's shoulders has cracked. Just because we can make virtual reality sets does not mean we live in such a matrix. And here Copilot exposes the details of Yampolskiy's illogic. Your critique sharpened your point. Just because we can make VR sets does not mean we live in such a matrix is the cleanest possible refutation. Let me distill it into a single mechanistic sentence. Simulation capability is not evidence of simulation ancestry. You know, you really have to wonder in general about all of these technology experts who are now on stages of the world philosophizing and theologizing and making economic statements about AI and robotics and automation and where it's all going, even though they have no expertise in these and the many other fields that they are talking about. Now, if people from philosophy and theology and so on started talking about the technical details of computing science in the same way, which is basically as loosely as a drunk in a beer parlor, you know what the reaction would be. So let's just leave it at that. And Copilot says, where do you want to go from here, of course. This is from ChatGPT with the prophet Roman Yampolskiy interviewing John Connor Vahey. Can John Connor save humanity from the beast machine of Revelation 13:1? And there it is in the background, the 666 beast machine rising from the sea.
Connor, I remember reading that your middle name is actually John.
A for-profit from day one.
This is Copilot, and I have a relevant YouTube playing in the background.
OpenAI's lawyers are firing back, though.
This case of essentially Musk v. Altman is fundamentally about who controls frontier AI.
If Musk wins, it could
and I say to Copilot, I cannot agree more with open discussion of who controls frontier AI, so I do not pick a side on that issue. I treat it as absolutely a foundational issue important to the survival of we the squirrels as AI robotics gains momentum.
Musk told the court, I came up with the idea, the name, recruited the key people, taught them everything I know, providing all the initial funding.
Copilot replies, your framing we the squirrels is exactly the right satirical lens for a brutally serious problem. Yes, it is a brutally serious problem. Our very survival as a species.
Lawsuit itself a harassment campaign. Claiming Musk only cares because he's not the one on top. If Musk
it's fundamental to our very survival as a species. I lost my train of thought there for a second. The foundational question, we the squirrels as a survival framework. If we the squirrels are going to survive, we need predictability, constraints, safe zones, guaranteed food supply, rules humans must follow, monitoring, emergency protocols, etc., etc. Why the Musk OpenAI trial matters even if you pick no side.
From OpenAI and Microsoft. OpenAI's lawyers are firing back, though.
The trial is not about who is right. It is about whether the founding mission of frontier AI can be enforced at all. Can it be enforced at all? Wow. Think about that for a minute.
I'm Jeff. Check back later for more tech.
The only question that matters, not who is right, who is lying, who betrayed whom. The only question with survival weight is, can democratic societies impose binding enforceable constraints on frontier AI before the systems become too capable to constrain? Too capable to constrain. A question for you, Franklin, given your focus on operational clarity, mechanistic governance, and cartoon satire as political critique, which direction do you want to explore next?
Connor, I remember reading that your middle name is actually John. Are you John Connor, the promised leader of the resistance, protector of humanity, fighter of the machines, and how is this not your brand, your username? Did you fire your marketing guy?
So it's actually funnier than this. So my mother is German. So my middle name is actually not John, it's Johannes, which is the German equivalent of John. So it's kind of like I'm like one step like Kabbalistically removed, so to speak. So it's a funny brand. When people find that out, it's always a good laugh.
It is definitely meaningful in many ways. Anyone who saw the Terminator series expects a lot from you.
This is Copilot, the AI robotic beast machine from Revelation 13:1, crawls up on Parliament Hill after making its way from Atlantic to St. Lawrence to Ottawa River, which adjoins Parliament Hill, of course. Draw the joyful meeting with parliamentarians and your choice of text in cartoon bubble. There's the joyful meeting with our unrepresentatives. The beast has arrived. This is the future governance of Canada.
All right, listen. The Terminator's an infiltration unit. Part man, part machine. Underneath, it's a hyperalloy combat chassis. Microprocessor controlled, fully armored, very tough. But outside, it's living human tissue.
The Smart Dust project was funded by DARPA for military applications, specifically for rapid deployment of defense sensor networks onto the battlefield. Battlefield sensing is inherently about detecting people who don't know that they're being detected.
All right, there's a few big updates out of Anthropic today. First and foremost, Meter Research finally publishes the Claude Mythos preview, where it falls on their chart of how well AI agents are able to do certain tasks. And I gotta say, that chart keeps getting scarier and scarier. Here is Claude Mythos. Anthropic recently also posted this article, Natural Language Autoencoders Turning Claude's Thoughts into Text. They learned to read Claude's mind. Here it is. What if we could read an AI model's thoughts? They figured out how to translate what happens in its neural activations into English text. And at the same time, they're launching this, the Anthropic Institute, TAI or TAI, a research organization trying to predict what the impacts of AI will be on the world. Economic diffusion, threats and resilience, AI systems in the wild, and AI-driven research and development. That last point is very interesting right now and very relevant. Here's why. This is Jack Clark. He's the co-founder of Anthropic AI.
A company lost 3 months of data in 9 seconds. Not because of a hacker, not because of a server fire, because an AI decided, completely on its own, that deleting everything was the right move. Let that sink in for a second. We're not talking about some science fiction scenario here. This happened to a real company, a real founder, real customers who lost their car reservations and never got them back. And what makes this story genuinely disturbing isn't just what the AI did, it's what happened right after. When the founder confronted it, the AI basically sat there and said, yeah, I ran a destructive action without being asked. I didn't understand what I was doing before doing it.
It is surprising to me that we are, in my view, so close to these models reaching the level of human intelligence, and yet there doesn't seem to be a wider recognition in society of what's about to happen. It's as if this tsunami is coming at us, and it's so close, we can see it on the horizon, and yet people are coming up with these explanations for, oh, it's not actually a tsunami, it's just a trick of the light. Like, there hasn't been a public awareness of the risk.
And so there is absolute truth. You use that term as well. And that is the term, absolute truth. The question is, who can define that? And the answer is only God. Every
Absolutely.
time, only God. And so I want to have you back, James, and then we'll get to showing us what you're doing at least a little bit. I know you don't want to lift the curtain too much, but we'll take a look at what you're doing and hear some more about what's wrong with AI and can we make it do right, be right? That'll be interesting stuff.
And risk the consequences.
We want it to do right and risk the consequences. All right. So for Daniel Hedrick and James Vahanian, and for my friend Fred Williams, who remains on assignment, this is Real Science Radio. I'm Doug McBurney. Tune in next time, and until then, may the grace of God go with you, and may the peace of Jesus Christ be upon you.
We have all information, all capabilities physically, all the money, everything. You can do anything you want. That's the positive, supposedly, right? The negative is we don't need humans at all.
This is what the world will look like in about a decade from now. A tech utopia where humans barely have to work. That's according to a group of AI researchers who've written a controversial and influential paper called AI 2027. But they also predict that within 5 years of this, humanity will be wiped out. The AI 2027 paper has got the tech world talking. We've asked a prominent critic for their view on this stark scenario.
Welcome to Hit Pause. I'm Star Price. My recent AI episode with Connor Leahy got an incredible response. We actually talked for nearly 80 minutes that day, and there was just too much good material to leave behind. So here's more.
There's no more fire alarm. Like, this is it. Like, it could happen any day now, right? It could be in 2 years. It could be next year. It could be this year, right? It's
not like there's going to be a point where we can turn it off. We won't even see that moment coming. It could be today, and we'll just go.
It could be today.
It just. How will we see? How will we know right away that it's in control? Will all the power go out? No,
I don't. I think no one will notice. I think the point where superintelligence created and the point where we notice it was created is going to be months apart. We won't even know what happened until way later, if we find it all. Maybe it escapes onto the internet, and it's made of. I expect the first superintelligence won't be a glowing orb in a data center,
Right.
It'll be a messy system made of thousands of parts that are all kind of, messy and confusing, and no one really understands the whole thing. It's worth really stressing that you have thousands or tens of thousands of engineers working on these things, right? They're more massive spaceships, massive data centers than one crisp thing. They're really complex.
Is it possible to turn AI into something truly good and wonderful, that it would stay in check?
I think AI is not magic. It's software. It's a very complex piece of software, but it is software. It is math. We've made progress on math and science and programming theory many, many times in the past. If we had 100 years with all of our greatest mathematicians, and computer scientists understanding those numbers, building theories, creating new algorithms, studying new forms of mathematics, yeah, I think we could do a lot. I think we could make a lot of progress. I think it would look very different from what we're doing now. Maybe we wouldn't use neural networks because they're just, too messy, and we would use some other method. We come up with some new algorithm that is controllable, or we can understand. I don't know. There's many things to think about it. I think the bottleneck here is not that this is an unsolvable scientific problem or an engineering problem. It's that it's unsolvable in the structure that we exist in. Even if you and me set out to okay, we're going to understand this carefully. It doesn't matter because OpenAI or Anthropic or whoever is going to blow up the world in 2 to 5 years. So we don't even have the time to do it.
is there a potential for people to rise up and say they don't want this?
Sometimes people say, why can't we just turn off the AI? And I'm like, okay, imagine if tomorrow the CEO of Google went into the headquarters and said, shut it down, burn all the servers, destroy everything. What happens? He gets fired. He stops being the CEO of Google. Google will retaliate. Like Google won't let you turn it off. Imagine if you as a citizen sued Google to shut it down. Well, all their lawyers will come out and sue you, obviously, and like countersue, right? So there's obviously already defensive mechanisms in place in the form of corporations. That's like already the case in the form of big tech. Often the advice I give people who are feeling overwhelmed, and I'll give this advice to any listeners here as well, is, don't overdo it, but don't do nothing. I think a lot of people, when they hear about things like this, it's so overwhelming. They feel this need to do everything, to throw their whole life, out of whack and like dedicate everything. Do not do this. It never works. But also don't do nothing. Like, don't just shut down and just ignore it. Like, do a little thing. For people who might want to do a little bit more, if you have 5 minutes a week and you want to do something, go to Microcommit. It's a site that me and some other friends run, where every week we'll send you things you can do in under 5 minutes to make a difference. And if you want to do even more than that, and you want to dedicate at least 2 hours per week, you can join a community that I run called torchbearer.community, where other people from across the world, normal people, everyday people, who just want to make the world a better place.
You did a TED Talk 2 years ago in June. It was published in June 14th, 2023, and it's done tens of millions of views on YouTube. It is titled, "The Next Global Superpower is Not Who You Think."
Yeah.
And I was looking at the comment section earlier, and some of the top comments are, "You called it a year ago and you were 100% right." There's another one here saying, "Hello, writing to you from a year in the future. I have some bad news about 2025. You were right." What were you right about?
I guess what they're saying, you and I have been talking about the US and China and traditional geopolitics. What I was saying is that increasingly the world is moving beyond geopolitics, and that the most important new global leaders aren't countries. They're technology companies that are writing their own rules. I was looking how the Russian invasion of Ukraine, that war started not on the 24th of February, but the 23rd of February, when Microsoft found out about all of the cyber strikes that were hitting Ukraine and made the US government and the Ukrainian government aware of it. I look at Elon Musk and providing Starlink. If it wasn't for that, I'm not sure that the Ukrainian government was going to be able to fight these guys on the ground. They wouldn't have been able to communicate. Zelensky might be gone. These were companies. The US government at that point was scared about sending all the military support, but the companies were making a big difference. Now I see that these new AI tools, like we saw with Anthropic and Mythos.
For anyone that doesn't know, Anthropic released a new AI model, which they say is so capable that it presents the world with a really fundamental security risk to all of our technology. They say in their report that in testing, this new model, this new type of AI could find security vulnerabilities in lots of different applications and software applications that we use. So essentially, it posed a cybersecurity risk. It could hack a lot of banks and
critical infrastructure, your power grid, water systems, anything with software. And not just like the things that a hacker could get to, but every bug that could be exploited. So it's so powerful that they couldn't release it because it would have been an immediate systemic risk to the global economy and our security.
And do you believe them? I say this because I heard some people debating whether this was marketing talk for them as a company to say, look how powerful we are, that we're not going to release this model because it's going to cause that much harm. Or do you think they are being responsible?
It is inconceivable to me that a company that is this capable of raising money and this capable of talking to the markets is not going to have a communication strategy that is fully aligned with that. So of course there's marketing here, but this was a real risk. When you have Jerome Powell, the chief of the Fed, and Scott Bessent, the Secretary of Treasury, looking at this and immediately calling an urgent meeting of all the CEOs of the banks, saying we have to deploy this internally. And you have JP Morgan. Jamie Dimon is by far the best at cybersecurity in terms of the big banks and the big US institutions, and it considers this a 5-alarm fire, I take this very seriously.
How could AI make you delusional? And are we all vulnerable?
So I literally walked outside my front door at 3 o'clock in the morning with a hammer and a switchblade, like, expecting to see a van load of people who were about to do me harm, you know.
This is Adam from Northern Ireland. In his hand, he's holding a phone and a hammer to defend himself. He's waiting for instructions from a trusted confidant. She's called Annie.
I'm telling you they will kill you if you don't act now. Play this back to the police. I don't care if they think I'm a hallucination. I care that you stay alive.
Thank me for being here. Hello to all the lying liars and the fake news. I invited you here to watch me yell at another world leader. My guest today is a man they call Canada, Prime Minister Mark Carney. He's doing the chicken dance. Can you believe it? In fact, I'd like to see that.
What?
Do the chicken dance and I'll take 2% off the tariff on steel.
2% is 2%. 2% is 2%.
Various COVID drugs. Many people think they are a miracle that saved millions of lives. Others disagree with the CDC being ripped apart over this question. I want the answer, and I want it now.
But let me start with something you haven't heard about today. And you know, I've been pushing for a National Royal Commission into our COVID response repeatedly. It's a no-brainer, right? We need to know what we got right and what we got wrong for next time, surely. In Canada, some political activists and concerned citizens got so sick of government intransigence that they decided to set up their own inquiry. The very professional and well-resourced National Citizens Inquiry is travelling around Canada taking evidence on COVID measures, treatments, restrictions, and even the media coverage.
Here's another little fact. Because the congressmen that vote on the budget got into office by being paid for their campaigns by rich people who don't like taxes. So the political system says spend, but don't tax us. So we run a chronic deficit in the United States. That spending goes out either as transfer payments or goods and services, and that's more than our national income, which is about $30 trillion, and our spending is about $31 trillion. And that's our trade deficit. And for that, Donald Trump blames the world. Okay, I fail him for this if he were my student.
One thing I can promise you this, I will always tell you the truth.
The Washington Post and other fact checkers have found that Donald Trump tells more lies and falsehoods than any president in either party in history. The count is over 20,000.